Hi, I'm Carrie. At my own mother's will reading, they gave me a seat in the back. The name card said, Observer. My sister stood up, smiled, and read a list of everything she was inheriting, then turned to me and said, You get Mom's gratitude. They laughed, but they didn't know. Mom left me something they couldn't erase, and when I whispered it to the judge, everything stopped. Do you know what it feels like to be written out of your own life? Let me show you. The office smelled like lemon polish and old decisions. I walked in alone, clutching my coat tighter than necessary. I wasn't invited, not really, just copied in on an email, like an afterthought. I read the subject line 3 times before I clicked it. No, dear Tent. No, hope you're well. Just, time and place confirmed. Reading of the will. Please arrive 15 minutes early. 15 minutes early. I got there 20. The walls were lined with portraits, smiling families with 2 white teeth, frozen in time, all pretending they never had to sit in a room like this. There was no welcome sign, just Reet's voice, already laughing with someone inside. I stepped into the conference room. Everyone had a seat. Every seat had a name card. Mine was in the far corner, next to the coat rack and behind a dying ficus. It read, Tent Fallon, Observer. I didn't flinch, just pulled the chair out quietly and sat down. Reet and Jory glanced my way. He gave a polite nod. She didn't. She didn't need to. I didn't come for money. I came for memory, for truth, for the echo of a promise. I stared at the card again. Observer, not daughter, not Ms. Fallon, just observer. I leaned in a little. Is this a mistake? I asked, my voice low but firm. Reet didn't even look up. I thought it was more accurate. A few people chuckled, the kind of laugh that dies in the throat of people who know they're witnessing something wrong but don't have the spine to say it. I nodded once. Message received. My coffee sat in front of me. I didn't touch it. I just kept my hands wrapped around the cup. My mother used to say I had steady hands, said I was her safe pair of hands. That was back when her words still meant something. They didn't cut me out with knives. They did it with a printer and a smirk. Jory cleared his throat, standing at the head of the table with a leather folder in hand. We'll begin now, Reed interrupted. Of course she did. I can handle it, she said, already flipping open her own folder. Mom had me revise it, remember? He stepped back without protest. That part hurt more than I expected. Reed read the will like it was a monologue she'd rehearsed. Every item came with her name. The house, the pension, the jewelry, even the old paintings my mother hated but never took down. All hers. She paused dramatically before the end. And to my youngest daughter, Tent, she said, smiling slightly, I leave my gratitude. There was a pause, then a snort, then someone muttered, How generous. I didn't blink, didn't speak, just listened and watched. You learn a lot when you let people think you're not paying attention. After the reading, I felt nothing, not anger, not yet, just this heavy, familiar numbness that settled between my shoulder blades. I closed my eyes for a moment, trying to recall if my mother had ever hinted at this, anything that could have prepared me. She hadn't. The last real conversation I had with her was in the hospital. Her hand, light as paper, squeezed mine. Everything's taken care of, she'd whispered. I trust you. I'd believed her. Maybe that was my first mistake. Was I too quiet all these years? Too agreeable? Too invisible? I excused myself, not because I was about to cry, but because I needed air, not the fresh kind, just the kind that wasn't poisoned with pretenses. In the restroom, I stared at my reflection. My face looked detached. I didn't look sad. I looked like someone who had learned, again, that love doesn't always translate into fairness. They think silence is weakness, but silence is a weapon. And I'm still holding mine. When I returned, the room had shifted. The chairs were being pushed in. People were talking about selling the house already. Reet leading the discussion, as always. I walked to my chair, picked up my name card and straightened it. Then I sat. Not for them, for me. I watched. And I remembered. I wasn't listed in the will, but that doesn't mean I won't leave my mark. I didn't go home after the reading. I walked straight into the lounge down the hall, where Jory's firm laid out a nice little spread for the family. Sandwich triangles, fruit skewers, mini quiches, no one touched. The kind of hospitality that tries to dress up something ugly. The energy was jarringly bright. My sister was already holding court at the center of the room, laughing too loudly at something someone said. A few of our cousins from Charlotte stood around her, nodding, sipping sparkling water out of plastic flutes. I grabbed a coffee, decaf, lukewarm, bitter, and took the seat nearest the window. "That whole observer thing?" I heard Reet say with a grin. "I mean, come on." She sat there like we were talking about someone else's family. A few chuckles. Someone added, "Honestly, it kind of fit." Trina, our cousin on Dad's side, slipped into the seat beside me. She leaned in close. "You're handling this like a saint." I would have flipped the whole damn table. I took a sip of the coffee. If I flipped it, they'd say I ruined a family memory. She blinked. I met her eyes. "They already ruined me," I said. Across the room, Reet raised her glass. "To family," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Even the ones who just observe." The laughter wasn't loud, but it was sharp, like a knife dragged across glass, slow and intentional, and every single person in that room let it happen. I kept my eyes on the condensation on my cup. I didn't need to see them laughing. I'd already heard it all. Earlier, before I entered the lounge, I walked past the hallway near the coat room. I'd paused there, out of instinct, just for a second. That's when I heard it. Reet's voice, sharp and smug. "She actually showed up," she told Jory. "I swear she still thinks Mom was going to give her the house." Jory didn't argue. "Let her have her moment," he said. "She won't know what hit her." I didn't turn around. Just walked, one foot in front of the other. Back in the lounge, even the staff seemed to avoid me. I reached for a mini quiche. No one made room. Fine. I didn't need them to. A memory hit me out of nowhere. Thanksgiving. 4 years ago. Reet accused me of manipulating Mom emotionally because I helped her bathe that morning. Said I was playing the martyr card. No one corrected her then either. "Excuse me, ma'am," a young woman in a black polo said softly. I turned. "Your name tag had a typo," she said, holding out a fresh one. I took it without thinking, flipped it over. "Carrie Ellison, guest of family." Guest, not daughter, not even Ms. Fallon. I stared at it a moment, then folded it in half and slid it into my purse. They wanted me invisible, but they made me unforgettable. Mildred Clark shuffled toward me, Mom's neighbor. She wore a powder blue suit, her lipstick slightly smudged. She gave me a strained smile. "Reet's been such a rock for your mother," she said, as if she were reading from a script. "We all admire her." I nodded once. What else could I do? Telling the truth to people who've already chosen a version of it never works. Another family friend passed by, camera in hand. "Group photo by the window, everyone." They pulled people together. Someone waved me in, half-heartedly. I stood where they placed me, at the edge. When the flash went off, I noticed it. My face half-shadowed, almost cut out, symbolic. Or maybe deliberate. Behind me, I caught Reet's voice again. "Carrie always made herself small. Guess now she's just matching the energy." I walked out. Didn't slam the door. Didn't look back. It was cold outside. Sharp wind, biting through my sleeves. I pulled my coat tighter, leaned against the brick wall outside the building. They gave me no role, so I chose one. The watcher. But watchers remember everything. I pulled out my phone, opened my inbox. There was an old email, starred from months ago, buried between grocery store ads and newsletters I forgot to unsubscribe from. My hand hovered. They think I came empty-handed. They forgot what I carry inside. The drive to the house wasn't long, but I made it longer. I took side roads, circled 2 blocks, stopped once to check if my hands were steady enough to hold the wheel. They were, but my chest felt like it had a rock sitting in it. When I finally pulled into the driveway, the gravel crunched beneath the tires in a way that made me sick. I knew that sound. I'd paid for the repairs to that driveway. I'd picked out the gray stone mix, thinking it would last longer than the standard red clay. I sat there, staring at the front porch, The paint was new, a brighter white than I remembered. Probably Reet's choice. She always liked things to look fresh. I stepped out. The key still worked. Reet hadn't changed the locks yet, not because she forgot, because she wanted me to walk in and see for myself. Inside, everything was staged, like one of those houses you walk through when you're thinking about buying but know deep down you can't afford. Reet's vases, Reet's curtains, Reet's taste. The old tea kettle was gone. In its place, a new, sleek coffee machine sat on the counter like a centerpiece, and the rocker, my mother's chair, was nowhere. I scanned the room twice before I realized it wasn't there at all. No one had told me. I shouldn't have expected them to. I walked toward the hallway, toward what used to be the heart of the house. That's when I saw the folder on the side table, centered perfectly, open just enough to catch the eye. Inside, property transfer papers. Updated, signed, owner, Maris Fallon. My name wasn't on it. Not as previous co-owner, not even as witness. I stared at it, then picked it up like it was something fragile. Of course, I said to the air. They didn't even need to change the locks. They just changed the paper. Reet's voice came from behind me. I hadn't heard her come in. If you wanted the house, she said, taking a slow sip of iced tea, you should have asked for a receipt. I turned to look at her. She didn't blink. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the folder or demand an explanation. I just placed the paper back where I found it. Aligned the edges, closed the flap. They wanted a reaction, but silence has a sharper edge. I moved upstairs. Her room, Mom's room, had been stripped down. New bedding, a minimalist frame, bare walls, like nothing had ever happened there. Like the woman who used to whisper prayers into the dark had never existed. I sat on the edge of the bed. The mattress didn't creak like the old one. Another replacement. I opened the nightstand drawer, almost out of muscle memory. Tucked in the back was a folded sheet. I pulled it out carefully. A draft of the will, different from the one Reet read. This version listed the house, and it had my name beside it. The signature was there. My mother's, but weaker. The loops less sure, the slant uneven. Dated a month after her stroke. No witness, no notary stamp. Just ink on paper, fading into time. I snapped a photo with my phone, emailed it to myself, twice. Even handwriting tells the truth, when the tongue no longer can. I found her in the backyard, watering a row of herbs that weren't hers to plant. Did Mom even know she changed the will? I asked. She didn't turn around, just kept watering. She said a lot of things when she was sick, Reet said. I did what I had to do. I stepped closer. That's not what she meant when she said, I trust you. Reet finally faced me. Maybe she meant me. Maybe you just heard what you wanted to hear. I looked at her for a long second, then nodded once and walked away. Not because I agreed, but because I understood. She didn't need to convince me anymore. I wasn't there to be convinced. Back at the motel that night, I sat at the small desk with the wobbly leg and opened my laptop, pulled up a spreadsheet, green and gray cells lit under the screen's dim glow. Tabs across the bottom read, medical, legal, deeds, insurance, caregiving hours, every date, every dollar, every document. I opened the photo I took of the draft will, dragged it into a new folder called Unfiled Truth. They thought they were burying me under paperwork, but they forgot I kept my own copies. After the confrontation in the backyard, I didn't speak to Reet again that day, not out loud at least. I stayed until the guests left, watched them pick at catered pasta and red velvet cupcakes like it was just another Sunday gathering. My mother would have hated the food. She preferred lemon pie. As twilight settled outside, I found myself standing at the doorway of her bedroom, alone. The air inside was thick, not with dust, but with weight, a kind of emotional residue that clung to the walls. I walked in slowly, tracing the edges of what was left. The old dresser, the worn corner of the rug where her heels used to rest, the mirror she sat in front of every morning, brushing her thinning hair into a soft bun. I opened the top drawer of the vanity. Most of it was empty, except for a hand mirror, still carrying the faint smudges of her fingerprints. I turned it over, and there, taped beneath, was a folded note. Yellowed, the corner torn, but intact. Her handwriting hit me like a punch to the chest. Carrie gets the locket, always. That's her piece of me. I didn't cry, not because I didn't want to, but because there was something worse than sadness running through me. Confirmation. She had meant it once, and someone had overwritten that truth. I didn't say anything right away. I just slid the note into my coat pocket and made my way back down the hall, into the living room where Reet sat comfortably on the couch, glass of wine in hand, laughing with someone on speakerphone. Around her neck, swinging gently as she leaned back, was the locket, the same one. I stood in the doorway for a while, unnoticed, unbothered, it seemed. But I was watching, always had been. I remembered once asking Mom, quietly, during one of her good days, "Can I have something of yours one day? Just to remember you by." She smiled. "The locket's yours, sweetheart. One day." I never asked again. I didn't want diamonds. I didn't want a house. I wanted proof that she knew I stayed, that she saw me. Now I watched Reet absent-mindedly touch the locket as she laughed. It wasn't a gesture of sentiment. It was a performance. Mildred approached again, as if on cue. Her voice lowered like she was about to deliver some kind of kindness. "Reet told me. You didn't want anything, that you told your mom that." I turned to her. "I told her I didn't need anything to prove she loved me." Mildred nodded as if that clarified everything. "Well, they said you were just here to help. Not for any inheritance." Not for any inheritance. That line stuck to me like burrs in thick socks. Embedded in the fabric, there it was, my decency, repurposed into erasure. I remembered another moment, years ago. Mom had looked at me and said, "You're not like your sister. You don't care about things." At the time, I'd taken it as a compliment. Now, it was a sentence, a setup, a justification. The moment you don't demand your place, they give it away. I didn't explode. I walked over to the coffee table, pulled the note from my coat, and placed it in front of Reet. She glanced at it, tapped the rim of her wine glass once, then flipped it over. Didn't read it. Just dismissed it like a napkin someone left behind. "Did Mom give you the locket?" I asked. "Or did you take it when she couldn't speak anymore?" Silence. She let it sit for a moment, then, with that familiar flatness in her tone, said, "She wasn't wearing it when she passed. I assumed she meant for me to have it." "You assumed a lot, didn't you?" Her mouth twitched, but she kept her voice level. "You assume silence is sacred. It's not. It's useless." I picked the note back up, folded it slowly, slid it into my coat pocket. I'd never spoken so little and meant so much. By the time I stepped out of the house, the wind had picked up. I didn't feel cold. I felt clear. In my car, before starting the engine, I scanned the note, sent it to my backup email, attached a time-stamped photo of where I found it. I'd been preparing for this without even knowing it. At the end of the hall inside, I caught one last glance at the family photo wall through the window. A new frame had been added, Reet, Jory, and Mom. Glossy print, professional shot. I was gone from it entirely. I let out a breath, quiet and slow. "Erase me again," I whispered. "I dare you." The motel lamp buzzed louder than the traffic outside. I hadn't taken off my coat. My back stuck to the vinyl chair, and the coffee on the table had long gone cold. Papers were scattered everywhere, scans, printouts, post-its with scribbled reminders I no longer needed. All of it stared back at me like proof I'd lived this life, and still somehow wasn't allowed to claim it. My laptop glowed on the desk, its screen dimmed by inactivity. I tapped the mouse and opened the last folder I hadn't touched. Will Original Draft Calvin. I didn't remember saving it. Maybe I had. Maybe I'd been too tired, too beaten to know I'd done something smart. I clicked. There it was. 6 months before the version Reet read at the firm. Black and white, no loopholes. My name, listed clearly as inheritor of the house, the pension, the life I built around Mom. And now, undone. I checked the file metadata. It had been uploaded from her hospice iPad, the one I bought. The one I set up for her with large fonts and automatic backups, that version had been erased. Replaced. She never signed off on it. Someone else did. Someone who knew I wouldn't make noise until it was too late. My fingers trembled, not with panic, but with something more dangerous. Certainty. I emailed the file to myself. Twice. I saved it in 2 cloud drives. I printed a copy in the motel lobby and tucked it into a folder marked Personal Taxes. I didn't need labels anymore. I just needed it somewhere they wouldn't look. Truth doesn't knock. Sometimes it waits until you're at your lowest, then sits on your chest. I sat back down at the desk and let out a breath. Then I opened my call history. It wasn't something I planned to do, but something pulled me there, like some part of me still needed one more confirmation that what I remembered was real. There they were, 8 missed calls, all to read, all in the span of an hour. A week before Mom died. No calls picked up, just one text that came back after the 6th try. It's too late for calls. Just pray. That wasn't medicine. That was control. She didn't let me say goodbye. She didn't let Mom hear my voice one last time, and that wasn't just petty. That was deliberate. I stared at the call log, the timestamps, the short message. My hand hovered over the screen like it might burn me. When someone steals your goodbye, they steal more than closure. They steal the right to heal. I grabbed my coat and walked to the diner next to the motel, the kind with yellow booths and worn menus with laminated edges. I sat at the far end and ordered black coffee, nothing else. The waitress gave me a look, not pity, more like concern masked as patience. "You look like you need someone to talk to," she said, soft. I smiled politely. "I'm all talked out." I sipped in silence, the clock above the register ticking in rhythm with my heart. I'd always been the quiet one. The helper, the background person. You think if you ask for nothing, they'll leave you something, but they don't. They leave you less. For a second, I hovered over the delete button on the file. Maybe it was too late. Maybe it wouldn't change anything. Maybe no one would believe me. But then I heard her voice, like it came through the steam from the coffee. Faint, but firm. "You always saw what others missed. That's your gift." I put the phone down. Back at the motel, I sat back down at the desk. Drafted an email to myself. Subject line: "If I give up again, read this." I attached the will, the metadata screenshots, the call log, a photo of the printed copy inside the tax folder. And I wrote, "I wasn't weak. I was watching. And I have proof now." I uploaded everything to a folder called Mom Didn't Forget Me. And when I hit send, I finally exhaled, quietly. But with something steel beneath it, they thought they erased me. They didn't know I backed up the truth. The motel blinds let in a thin stripe of sunrise, cutting across the dusty floor and the pile of papers I'd fallen asleep on. I hadn't meant to sleep, just rest my eyes. My coat was still wrapped around me like armor. The air inside felt cold, not from the temperature, but from everything else. I got up slowly, filled the motel's styrofoam cup with coffee that tasted more like cardboard than caffeine, and sat at the small table by the window. From there, I could see frost still clinging to car roofs, the sidewalk shining wet under weak morning light. Asheville was waking up, but I wasn't rushing. I pulled my hair back, tied it tight. No makeup, no earrings, just clean lines and a coat that didn't say anything about me. I'd spent most of my life choosing peace. But peace isn't the absence of conflict. It's clarity. At the library 2 blocks away, I found a quiet corner near the back. My laptop hummed to life. I logged into the cloud folder labeled Mom Didn't Forget Me. I knew what I was looking for. I just didn't expect it to slap me in the face so fast. In the archived inbox from Mom's email, one I managed during her hospice days, I found it. A forwarded email. Not to me, but one she was copied on by mistake. From Jory. "Maris, attached is the updated document reflecting your requested changes. As per your note, tent is now omitted entirely. We'll proceed with discretion. No greetings, no soft landings, just facts." Attached was the draft of the revised will. The one Reet had read aloud. The document history showed her name as the editor. There it was, in black and white. I didn't panic. My hands didn't shake. My breathing stayed even. Because you can't fake fingerprints or file history. I printed the email chain. I printed the draft. I printed the metadata. Then I stapled it together, slipped it into a folder, and wrote on a post-it, "Copy, original beneficiary." It didn't take long to find them. Jory and Reet were sitting in the corner of a nearby cafe, 2 lattes between them, acting like they didn't dismantle someone's life 3 days earlier. I walked in and didn't order anything, just walked to their table and placed the folder gently in front of Jory. He looked up. Reet froze mid-sip. "I think you left something in my mother's inbox," I said. Then I turned and walked out. The room went quiet behind me. Not that I needed to hear it. They'd understand soon enough. They think battles are won by yelling. But silence knows exactly when to strike. As I stepped outside, wind caught the edge of my coat. I pulled it tighter and made my way toward the courthouse down the street. It was just opening, the doors still heavy from overnight chill. On the way, I remembered something Mom had told me once. If someone makes you question what you lived through, they're not protecting peace. They're protecting power. At the probate clerk's window, I filled out the form carefully. Legal name, case number, grounds for challenge. The woman behind the glass asked me twice if I was sure. "I'm sure," I said. That's the thing about hitting the bottom. You stop fearing gravity. Back at the motel, I sat at the same table by the window. My journal lay open, pen already uncapped. They wanted me confused, compliant, crushed. They're going to get none of it. That night, I dreamt of my mother, but not in a hospital bed, not fragile. She was sitting at the kitchen table, thumbing through a book. Not a will, not a binder. A book, one of those dollar store notebooks she used to write in. When she opened it, the first page had my name at the top. That's all. Just my name. My mother's final words weren't in a document. They were in the way I was raised to stand back up. They called it a memorial brunch, the kind where people wear smiles with their grief like they're afraid someone might accuse them of not moving on fast enough. Reet had organized the whole thing, rented out the community hall, arranged florals, ordered catered Southern comfort food she never actually ate herself. Black dress, pearls, and a smirk. Jory played his usual part, whispering to old church members like a PR rep managing a small scandal. I wasn't really invited. My name had just carried over from an old guest list my mother probably made 2 years ago, back when she still believed this family could sit in a room without drawing blood. I walked in without hesitation, didn't linger, didn't smile. The entry was lined with a photo display, candids from childhood, family trips, birthdays, anniversaries, graduations. A life curated carefully, but not accurately. I started looking, not for nostalgia, for omission. It didn't take long. In every photo, I was either cut off, turned sideways, or shoved to the edge behind someone taller. One in particular caught my eye, my college graduation. I remembered standing right there beside Mom, cap crooked, holding my degree with a crooked grin. But in this photo, it was Reet holding the diploma. Taken again, no doubt, without me. If you remove someone from a frame long enough, people forget they were ever there. "That's not the original," a voice behind me said. I turned slightly. Mildred. Same powder blue suit, same quiet but knowing tone. "You were at that ceremony." "I remember." I nodded. Apparently the camera didn't. People started watching, just a few at first. Conversations paused. Plastic forks stopped scraping paper plates. That kind of silence doesn't come all at once. It creeps. Then she entered. Dora Lee. She wasn't on the guest list. No name tag, no formal wear. Just the same denim skirt and cardigan she wore when she used to clean Mom's house every other Tuesday. She walked with purpose, no hesitation, straight to me. "Your mama wrote things down when she couldn't speak," she said, holding out a small notebook. Leather-bound, worn edges, heavy. I took it carefully, flipped to a random page, dates, appointments, pain levels, little things. Then, like a punch to the ribs, "If Carrie doesn't get the house, something's wrong. She was the one here, not Reet." It wasn't poetic. It wasn't dramatic. It was clear. Before I could say anything, Dora walked past me, stood near the front of the room. No mic, no announcement. "I don't want anything," she said, her voice carrying without effort. "I just want you all to know. It wasn't like how it's being told." Reet's heels clicked across the floor as she moved toward Dora. "That's enough." Dora didn't blink. "You've said enough for both of us." Nobody moved. So I did. I walked over to the photo wall, opened the notebook again, and set it down gently beside the frame of Reet holding my diploma. "I'm not here to divide a room," I said, turning to face the crowd. "You don't need to pick a side, but you should know what was left out." Reet stepped forward. "This is a brunch, not a trial." I met her eyes. "Then maybe you shouldn't have erased me like I was guilty of something." She scoffed, but the weight had shifted. Her words didn't land the same. I stepped to the small podium that still had a mic from earlier remarks. I didn't adjust it, just spoke. "I was never asking for your approval," I said, "just your accuracy." That was it. The room didn't erupt, it deflated. No one clapped, no one protested, but no one defended her either. That kind of silence. It's the loudest sound in a family like mine. I didn't linger. On the way out, I felt a light tug at my sleeve. Mildred, again. She held up a photo, worn, slightly faded. Me and Mom, graduation day, my cap crooked, her arm around my waist. "I kept it," she said. "Thought it mattered." Tears sat in my throat, but I didn't let them fall. I took the photo carefully, as if it were something sacred. "It does now," I whispered. They erased my face, but witnesses remember. I arrived at the courthouse before the clerks had even unlocked the side entrance. The sky was still low and gray, the kind that never really commits to rain. I parked 2 blocks away on purpose, gave myself time to breathe, to let my boots touch the pavement long enough to feel like I was walking towards something that mattered. In my hand was a small manila envelope, no frills, just a USB, a printed transcript, and a quiet storm that had been waiting to speak. They thought I came unarmed, but I'd been carrying the sharpest thing in the room for weeks now. I checked in, nodded to the bailiff, and waited. Judge Croft called me in privately. Pre-hearing review, something I'd quietly requested days ago through a legal motion Jory never expected me to understand, let alone use. Inside his chambers, I sat across from him, didn't cross my legs, didn't fold my arms. Just opened the envelope, slid over the USB, and said, "There's something you need to see." He plugged it in, hit play. The screen showed Mom in her bedroom. Lighting was soft, but you could see her clearly. Her voice wasn't strong, but it didn't waver either. "If I cannot make changes later," she said, "let this serve as my truth. Carrie is the one who stayed. She deserves the home. I trust her." That was it. No big speech. Just the kind of clarity that cuts. When the screen went black, Judge Croft leaned back. "I believe the other will was submitted after this," I said. "You'll find the metadata supports that." He nodded once, said nothing, but I saw the shift in his eyes. They tried to edit me out, but the raw footage survived. Out in the main courtroom, Reet was in her usual form. Perfect posture, effortless banter with cousins. A small crowd gathered around her like she was the final word on grief. The judge entered, scanned the room. His glance landed on me, then back to his file. Calmly, he called the session to order. During a short break, as people stretched and whispered, I walked over to Reet, leaned in. "You should check what's in the file now," I said, low enough for only her to hear. "I think you'll find Mother's voice finally included." Her jaw locked. She looked at me, then at the judge, who was flipping through a transcript. She didn't speak, just turned and walked out to the hallway, her walk a little too quick to feel like control. Sometimes the courtroom doesn't need a gavel. Just a heartbeat skipped in fear. When she returned, she didn't look at me. Judge Croft reconvened, adjusted his glasses, then calmly requested a review of all wills and attached evidence, including video testimony. Reet's lawyer stood, objected. "Your Honor, the video's hearsay, possibly manipulated." The judge didn't even blink. "For a document to be overwritten," he said, "there must first be something to overwrite. Let's compare origins." Jory, now just a spectator, looked like he was trying to melt into his seat. Reet didn't argue further. I sat still, hands folded, face blank. But my heart, it wasn't pounding, it was ready. Mom had told me once, "Don't fight like they do, Fight with what they'll never see coming. And I did. The judge concluded the session with a postponement for full review. However, he added, the new evidence is concerning and credible. No one clapped. No one gasped. But the room shifted. People who had smiled at Reet earlier now avoided her gaze. As we stood to leave, Reet brushed past me. You think this makes you the better daughter? She hissed. I turned, calm, direct. I never needed to be better, I said. I just needed to not be erased. This wasn't a win. This was a restoration, and I wasn't done yet. The courtroom was quieter than usual. Fewer people, less whispering. The buzz had died down, replaced with something heavier. Consequence. Whatever Reet had built with charm and image had taken a hit in the last few weeks, and now the cracks were visible, if not to everyone, at least to those who mattered. Judge Croft entered without flourish, sat straight, cleared his throat, and spoke with the kind of authority that didn't need volume. The court has reviewed the timeline of submitted documents, he said. The metadata has been verified. The video testimony, though informal, matches prior statements made by the deceased. The handwritten note submitted by Mrs. Fallon has also been deemed authentic, with corroborating entries found in Mrs. Dora Lee's journal. The court also accepts the statement provided by Mrs. Lee. No objection from Reet's side. Jory had resigned weeks ago, said he had a conflict of interest. I bet he did. Her new lawyer, a woman in stiff gray, sat beside her like a statue, said nothing, wrote everything down. I sat still, not triumphant, grounded. They called me dramatic. Turns out all I did was document everything they tried to hide. Judge Croft turned to the financial review. There was one more matter, he said, regarding a joint account held under Orange Fallon and Carrie Fallon. Records show that after Ms. Orange Fallon's passing, several unauthorized transfers were initiated by Miss Maris Fallon. He glanced up. Reet blinked. Her hands tightened on the edge of the table. While the legal standing of the account is under probate jurisdiction, the judge continued, the court finds sufficient concern for financial misconduct. He laid out the ruling, clear and final. The house returns to me. Financial restoration, ordered. The will to be adjusted, in alignment with the original intent shown through evidence. A gasp. Someone in the back. Reet didn't speak. But her mask cracked. Just a little. I didn't look at her. There was nothing left I needed from her face. Outside, after the hearing, people filed out slow, some with nods, others with blank eyes. Reet stayed behind. I walked alone toward the front steps. Then I heard it. Footsteps behind me. Carrie, Mildred. She walked carefully, like she didn't want to be seen rushing. She handed me something small, wrapped in tissue. A photo album. I found this in an old drawer, she said. Thought you should have it. I opened it slowly. Pictures. Not of the events Reet had framed on her walls. These were smaller moments. Me brushing Mom's hair, sitting beside her on the porch. The birthday where I made the cake from scratch because she didn't want store-bought. I never knew if your mom meant to hurt you, Mildred said quietly. But I know she loved you in her own scared way. I nodded. She couldn't fight them, I said. But she left me pieces. And I picked them up. Justice comes from systems. Healing comes from people who never let go of the truth. Later that evening, I returned to the house. It was mine now. Empty, quiet, but finally, mine. I didn't unpack anything. Just walked through, room by room, like I was greeting ghosts. In the kitchen, behind a torn flap of one of Mom's old cookbooks, I found it. A letter, handwritten, unsent. The date was just weeks before she passed. The handwriting trembled, but it was hers. Carrie, if I didn't say it enough, I saw you. I'm sorry they made you feel like I didn't. Love, Mom. I read it again. Then once more, letting it land somewhere deep. It wasn't poetic, but it didn't need to be. I folded it and placed it in the top drawer of the kitchen, the one she used for recipes and loose batteries and the pens that never worked. It was never about what I inherited. It was about knowing I wasn't invisible. Outside, the yard looked the same. I stood holding the photo Mildred had given me. I didn't hang it. I didn't need to see it every day. I placed it in the drawer next to the letter. I didn't win anything. I just reclaimed what shouldn't have been stolen. As I turned off the kitchen light, I whispered, "Good night, Mom." A breeze slipped in through the cracked window before I locked it. Nothing mystical, just peace. And if they ever try to erase me again, they'll have to go through the truth first.